Good evening. It's J. Lenora Bressler, and welcome to the March 13th, 2018 edition of the Bible, Delight in the Details, as we return to our series on the stories behind our most beloved hymns. The story I'm going to tell you today is very well known. In fact, I've heard it many, many times. And if you know the history of any of the hymns, this is probably the one that you have heard. But it's so well known, and it's so important and so moving that regardless of its familiarity, I feel that no series on the history of hymns would be complete without its mention. And that is the great story behind "It Is Well With My Soul." It was immediately after the Great Fire of Chicago, and wealthy businessman Horatio Spafford was struggling because the fire had taken a large part of his company's wealth. In its aftermath, the family had also been touched by tragedy when their only son died suddenly. Mr. and Mrs. Spafford were in grief, of course, but they had 5 other children, all girls, that were depending on them, and they were devout Christians. In fact, they were very close friends with Dwight Moody, the great missionary, and had planned to go with Moody over to England to help with his missionary tour. Even in the aftermath of this terrible blow, both financially and within the family, the Spaffords said they wanted to go and still help. Mr. Spafford put his wife and 5 daughters on a ship, saying he would follow within a week or 2 as soon as business would allow. They never made it, at least not the 5 daughters, because in that churning North Atlantic Sea, the ship went down. Mrs. Spafford did make it back to England, where she cabled him, "Saved, alone." Mr. Spafford hurried to his wife's side, and while he was en route on another ship, he asked the ship's captain to tell him exactly where his family's ship had gone down. And as he looked into those murky waters where perhaps a mile underneath lay the bodies of his 5 daughters, he penned, "It is well with my soul." It gives added meaning when you read the verse that talks about when sea billows roll, when trouble like sea billows roll. He was literally seeing the sea billows rolling over the graves of his children. How do you keep your faith? How do you keep hope alive when hope seems very, very much in the grave? Well, Horatio Spafford did it by keeping focused on the main thing. Our troubles in this world are great, but they are short-lived, and they are nothing in comparison to the time that we will spend in eternity. I always say, probably it's the Southerner in me, we have bigger fish to fry. And frankly, no matter what happens to us here on earth, no matter how difficult the circumstances, they are minuscule fish in comparison to the most important thing, and that is the state of our soul, the well-being of our spirit, and therefore the future of eternity for us. When you are approached with the difficulties of life, when you don't know what to do, when you're vaguely discontented, or you are panicked because of difficulties, whatever your state right now, remember to keep the main thing, the main thing. Or as academic people like to say, let us not major on the minors. Let us major on the majors. How is the state of your soul tonight? I hope I can say, with Horatio Spafford, "It is well with my soul." I'm J. Lenora Bressler. Visit me on the next edition of the Bible, Delight in the Details. Have a great night.